What jig sizes work for what baits and when? I'm gonna tell you. Roll that intro. Now, we kind of covered this vaguely in our selecting the right hook size video, but I'm going to go a little bit more in depth on this one on jig head specifically. When you're fishing a smaller profile bait, obviously you don't want to put it on a very big hook. You want the presentation to stay a lot smaller. The hook size is going to increase the presentation and make it a little bit too big. Now, when am I fishing smaller profile baits? I love small profile baits year round. From the ice into the dog days of the summer, I use small profile baits for me
all the time.
Now, traditionally speaking, you're going to use small profile baits when they don't really want to eat. You can get much better reaction strikes with a smaller profile bait than you can with a big one.
It's kind of easier to kind of shun away a small little kid
than it is a big old giant.
I think you get the analogy. When you're just not in the mood to eat and you want to be left alone, if a smaller profile bait shows up, you're more apt to defend yourself and get it out of here and get more reaction strikes is what I'm getting to. So yes, I will throw 4mm tungsten ice jigs all year round on a very small profile 1-inch bait. Now, are you going to get a lot more hookups with smaller fish?
Of course, of course.
But it's not always the case, bigger bait, bigger fish. I have caught some slabberoonies on the 1-inch baits. Now, if you want to eliminate the possibility of catching the small ones, use a bigger profile bait and target the larger species. Now at Cray, we have 24 styles in crappie in 63 colors each. The largest crappie bait that we make specific to crappie is a 2-inch style. So if you're throwing a 2-inch paddle tail, for example, you're gonna want a 1/16 ounce or a 1/8 head. Let me show you.
1/16, 1/8.
Now, something to know too, there's 5 jig heads in 1/8 size and 1/4 ounce. The larger size, you get less. If you go 1/16 or smaller, you get more.
Double to be exact.
But if you're going for the larger crappies or the larger size fish, and you're trying to eliminate the possibility of catching the smaller ones, I would go no smaller than a 1/16 ounce head. Now, gills on a micro duster, something real small like this, or even just having some fun with a bunch of crappies.
Small ones included.
Go with a 1/64 ounce with a 1-inch bait. I promise, it works great. Now, you're going to want to keep in mind that when you're throwing a smaller head, obviously the weight, the lead, is a lot less on the end of your line. So if you're expecting to cast that 1/64 ounce jig to Narnia and back,
chances are slim, Jim.
So you're going to want to use a float. If you're casting a bait and you're wanting to move it in, we recommend the rocket bobber. It's a great float. If you want to use something like a Sheffield, a weighted egg float, you can use these as well for casting. By the way, I did a video on these floats. The link is in the description. Now, if you're going bigger species, something like a fitty swimmer, after the wipers, or bass, or if you're going with a paddle tail in like 3-inch up, even slim flukes, I'd recommend a 1/4 ounce head. That's the biggest that we make here at Cray. You can get them at castcray.com.
Link in description.
Now remember, when it's colder water, they're gonna be eating smaller. On cold fronts, chances are they're gonna be eating smaller. So try throwing some smaller profile baits, which means smaller profile jig heads. You obviously don't want to put a 1-inch bait on a 1/4 ounce head.
That would just be silly.
And on average, for the crappies at least, on a typically average day, kind of
dog days of summer day,
you're gonna want to throw something like an 1/8 ounce or a 16th ounce jig head. If you're casting from the shore without a bobber, or you don't want to use a bobber, use a 16th ounce. You can get out there plenty enough. Remember, when casting with the smaller jigs, you're gonna need a float to get you out there. Rocket bobbers, egg floats. Man, I hope that was helpful. That's just a little tidbit on jig head selection and what I know about it. If you have any additional comments to add, please put those below. If you have any ideas on future how-tos, we'd love to hear them. Smash that thumbs up, subscribe, and ring that bell so you get the notifications. Have a wonderful day. Woo-hoo!